on Wednesdays here with us. And on Wednesdays, we have what we call the Financial Clinic, where we talk issues money, and just to grow in our understanding of money, financial literacy, and things like that. And so the question today is, how do you handle an unexpected lump sum amount of money that you get? And so the question for you today is this: if you suddenly got 1 million shillings from nowhere, unexpected, 1 million shillings, what is the first thing you would do with that money? What is the very first thing you would do with that money? SMS is 20316, WhatsApp 0786 316 316, and let's see what you will say and what other people will say regarding that. Before I take a look at the local dailies to tell you what's making headlines today, let's take a look at today's weather. Now, taking a look at today's weather in Nairobi, you are looking at thunderstorms in various places this morning, giving way to sunny intervals later in the day, highs of 26 degrees. Down at the coast in Mombasa, expect thunderstorms as well. A good day to carry an umbrella, which will give way to a cloudy day with highs of 32. Down at Nakuru, you are looking at slight showers with highs of 27 and lows of 16, while my people in Kisumu, look out for a partly cloudy day today with highs of 29. Remember, as I always tell you, no matter the weather on the outside, ensure you carry your own weather on the inside. Great. Taking a look at today's local dailies. Daily Nation, big test for BBI, no cash for referendum. That's on the front page of the Daily Nation. On issues budget, policy statement has provided only 4.6 billion for the Electoral Commission's operations in 2020-2021. And then holding meeting in Eldoret could have seen Deputy President Ruto's allies dominate, and then push to have the president attend Eldoret and Nakuru rallies, forced organizers to settle for one. That's the big story right there on the front page of the Daily Nation. On matters coronavirus, coronavirus disrupts the workplace as firms send workers home and ban travel. This is interesting. It says, amid fears of the spread of the COVID-19 coronavirus, companies are canceling business travel and corporate off-site events around the globe and making contingency plans for staff. You need to take a look at that and find out how this virus is affecting business and is affecting companies. Looking at other stories you will find in the local dailies, apart from politics. Now court slaps Babu with 5 million shillings bail after free bond. The High Court has imposed 5 million bail on Embakasi East MP Paul Ongili, alias Babu Owino, who is charged with attempted murder. You can read more about that in the local dailies today. Other stories that are making headlines. Let me see what else is making headlines. Garbage collection, or rather garbage collectors litter city as strike over pay continues. The strike by garbage collectors contracted by City Hall entered its second day yesterday, with the aggravated workers littering the CBD in protest. This happened as the county's finance and environment departments continued to trade blame over who is responsible for the mess. That's in county news. And in the pullout today, it is all about trucks. No pizzazz, just steadfast delivery. Behold the new UD trucks. You can find out more about that. And then in the back pages, we have quite a bit on sports. Let me see what is here. Quite a bit on soccer. Night end in sight as match-fixing menace gains ground in Kenyan football. Oh my goodness. Corruption back of football, I am telling you. Standard newspaper. Clash of the Giants, that's the big story right there. It says tension between DPP, Nordin Haji, and DCI boss George Kinoti boil over in court after prosecutor disowns charges drafted by investigators against KPA boss, prompting magistrate to free suspects. What? Yep, that's how it is. Take a look at that. There's quite a bit also in the Standard newspaper about the coronavirus. You can find out more about that. Other stories that you will find here apart from politics and what's happening around the country, why courts could send you an SMS. Now, you can now be summoned to appear in court through SMS or WhatsApp message as the judiciary reviews its operations to keep up with the technology. Na SMS, nikisema haijafika, nikisema sikuona, nikisema sikuwa na simu. Anyway, take a look at that story and read more about it. I'm trying to get to Hustle, the pullout, to give you some information. I saw something interesting there. To hold on or to let go, how I made the tough call on my business. Read about different individuals who got to the place where they had to make a decision whether to keep holding on to their business or to let go, count their losses, and regroup and begin again. 4 different individuals sharing their story. Interesting perspectives there. You can take a look at that. And then in sports, it is all about sports. AFC to look to Kimani to end Gore pain. Those are some of the stories you will find in the local dailies this morning. So grab yourself a copy and keep yourself informed on what's happening both locally and also internationally. Ms. James Okumu, thank you for taking the time to hook up with me on this Wednesday morning. It is the Financial Clinic. Bench tumeweka hapo nje, tumeipanguza, iko safi, watu wakae polepole, maswali moja moja as we talk about how to handle a lump sum amount of money that you are not expecting. And I'm asking you a question that if you got 1 million shillings today, 1 million shillings may seem like a lot of money, but really it's not. But it is, but it's not. If you suddenly got 1 million shillings out of nowhere, you were not expecting it. You know, maybe it is a bonus or it is a gift or something just out of nowhere because you are not expecting it. What's the first thing you will do with it? And don't get religious on me. A lot of Christians, when you ask them that question, the first thing they say is, oh, you know, first of all, I will give 10%, I will tithe. Right now, you're tithing on what you're getting before you tell me you will tithe. I like this SMS. This is my kind of guy, Roy from Muthiru. Roy, how are you doing? Roy says, first thing I would do with that 1 million shillings, I would pinch like 20 to 50K ya kurudishia mwili shukrani. Me, I think you're just the real guy. Because I'm thinking probably I would do the same. Pinch like 20 to 50K. Yeah, nikakae tu mahali, niambie hii mwili pole. That's more realistic. But is that the right thing to do? Maureen, you say you would give a 10th. That's Maureen in Kino. My friend Jenga, all the way from Cafe Togo, he said, kwanza, hey, lazima nijipigie makofi. Kuaminiani hizo pesa ziko, then I would tithe, after which I would channel it to the many social welfare programs and investments that I have. I need to hear from you this morning in regards to this question. Our financial consultant will be joining us in the next short while. But before he does, it's me and you. I really need to hear from you. You got a lump sum, 1 million shillings from nowhere. You were not expecting it. What is the first thing? I'm not asking what you will do with the whole 1 million shillings. I'm asking you, what is the very first thing you would do with that money? What would you do? Will you go somewhere, sit down, have a nice meal and just relax as you think about the next move? Would you put all of it somewhere and say, you know what, let me think, let me get my act together first before I even touch it? What is the first thing would you do? I was asking a friend of mine yesterday this question. Akaniambia, hey, my first stop is the boutique. I need to buy some new clothes. That's the very first thing I would do. What would you do? Would love to hear from you. SMS 20316, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. Tell me your name and what you would do. Now, in talking about a lump sum amount of money that you're not expecting, I was having a very interesting conversation with some of my colleagues, and they were telling me, you know, that is something a lot of campus students have to grapple with. Because here you are, you've come from high school, and then you go to campus, pesa ya help inaingia, ndio hii. And they were telling me a lot of young people in campus waste that money because they've never handled a large amount of money like that, and now it's in their hands. And they are telling me, interestingly, some of them don't even pay the fees. They squander the money because of just being overwhelmed. And that's why we need to have this discussion. I remember when the SGR project began coming from the coast as it made its trail towards Nairobi, and people were being given money for the lands. I remember reading a story in the newspaper of this old mama who sold his land, or rather his land was acquired because of the SGR, and because she is illiterate, her son is the one who did all the documentation and received the money. No sooner had the young man received the money, he disappeared to Mombasa for several months. He came back home with nothing. So the land disappeared, the money disappeared, they went back to ground zero. And that's why we need to have this discussion, because a lot of us are not equipped to handle huge amounts of money because we've never really thought that big. And when that amount of money comes, we are so overwhelmed. One of the things you will realize is if you ever take some time to look at people who win the lottery. Now, we are not advocating for the lottery because we don't believe that's the way to go. God has a different way for you to be able to gain wealth. But in just looking at a majority of the people who win lotteries, most of them end up worse than they were because they got this huge amount of money and they were never really equipped and educated on how to take care of it. And it just disappears. Sometimes you have to just listen to what different people tell you when they have this huge amount of money that just come in suddenly, and the kind of things they're telling you they will do. Oh, nitanunua nyumba, nitanunua shamba, nitaanzisha biashara. And you're thinking, hey, kwani how much money did you get? It's only $1 million, Bob, and you want to do all those things. Are you really sure you're going to be able to accomplish all those things with that kind of money? So it's important for us to have this discussion, because if you're not prepared mentally, when that blessing comes your way, it may end up being a curse simply because you are not equipped enough mentally. You didn't have enough skill, you didn't have the thought process and the character to be able to grow that blessing into something bigger. And that is why it is always said that if you took all the money in the world and divided it equally amongst everybody in the world, within a couple of months, the people who were millionaires and billionaires before will still grow to be millionaires and billionaires, and some will lose even what you've given them. Because it's not about the money, it's your mind and your mindset regarding money. And that's why financial literacy is very, very important. And that's why we take the time every Wednesday to have these conversations on this show about money. So, waiting for your SMSs to come in. My good friend Maggie from Suna Estate says this: Pasi, I would sit down and budget for the money first. That's the very first thing I would do. And then Edwin says, Pasi, mi nitazima moto kwanza. There is that debt that bothers me so much. First, I will deal with it, and then next, I will go for a weekend. Utaenda kuambia mwili pole, Edwin, eh? I like the way you're thinking. And then I have this one. This one says, with the 1 million, I'll take 10% and tithe, 60% put it in a fund that earns interest, for example, bonds or SACCO, or for the dividends or unit trusts. That is what they would do with that money. This one says, my name is David from Ruiru. I would appreciate, this is something different. This is a prayer request. Should have come in the previous hour, but it's okay. We'll take some time to pray with you. We pray throughout the whole day. So tell me, what would you do if you suddenly got 1 million shillings that you were not expecting? What's the very first thing you would do with it? 20316 for SMSs. WhatsApp is 0786 316 316. Our guest will be joining us in the next short while as we dig into this discussion, and I hope that even as we get into it, we'll be able to find some ideas and some knowledge that will help us, because you just never know. Something may drop on your lap that you never expected, and with the knowledge, you can use it to be the seed that grows you into that place you want to be. If you don't have the knowledge, the blessing could turn into the curse that takes you deeper, even making things worse than where you are today. It is Wednesday, and so we are having the Financial Clinic. My name is James Okumo. The question I'm asking you this morning: if you suddenly got 1 million, Bob, that you're not expecting, what's the very first thing you would do with it? Interesting SMS is coming through today. Millicent from Kisumu, how are you doing? You say, the first thing I would do is thank God for the lump sum. And then what? Then seek wisdom from him to know what to do with it. This one says, I will first settle my mortgage. What remains goes into the various funds I have. That's Lillian from Kasarani. My good friend Joyce, all the way from Uganda, you say, I'll quickly bank the money to first gain composure and silence the money. Money is very loud, especially if you have not toiled for it. Inakupatiaga to directions, the last of the flesh. Kununua tunguo hapa to end a holiday. So you would bank it first and sauti ya pesa kwanza ishe, then you know what to do. Anyway, in studio with me today, a good friend of mine, Patrick Omel. Patrick Omel is a financial education consultant. He's here with us today to help us know what to do when we get a lump sum. Patrick, it's good to have you.
Thank you, James.
It's been a while.
Yes, it's been
You're
slightly.
a busy man. You had to get.
Oh, don't worry. Our diaries can conflict, but we'll always find time.
Yes. Let me ask you, what do you think are some of the common mistakes people make when they get this huge amount of money that they were not expecting? Whether it is a promotion at work and their salary is now tripled. Nimesikia pia watu wa campus wakipata help, kuna wale wanachanganyikiwa. What are the common mistakes people make?
The challenge has to do with the fact that we have active minds that are different from the ones of the other animals. and that's for a fact.
Yes.
The only difference between us, what makes us good, is what also makes us sick. Because it comes with the benefit, but it requires you to exercise a certain amount of control. Now, I'll be very basic so that everyone can understand me from a very basic point of view. Now, we are taught about what we call the hierarchy of needs. So when your most basic need has been extinguished, then the next level of need pop up. Now, unfortunately, when one is missing food, like I remember the young man who won 241 million shillings sometime, or 242 million shillings sometime, who could afford a popcorn packet by the time he won the money. The moment you have 241 million in your name, your mind tells you your basic problems are no longer
an issue.
You haven't dealt with them, but your mind tells you that they are no longer an issue. So the next highest needs pop up. Oh yes, because if you could not afford a pack of popcorns yesterday, it is I cannot explain how you'll buy a 40 million car a week later. Because you're now behaving at the epitome of your needs. So is a mental, I don't want to call it illness, but it's a mental gap, is a mental immaturity gap that is made possible by a lack of what I would call exercise. Exercise is to say that if you were already doing things and you had projects that needed money, you knew exactly how much money you needed to fire your project to the next level. Then when such money comes first, the first thing you sort is your biggest project. You come down to the next project. Now, if someone's projects are debts, then they first clear debts. Now, what I ask is, if you got 10 million shillings and all your debt is 1 million, okay, you've cleared the debt, you still have 9 million shillings. So now what next? So the basic things that money finds us with, those are really basic things, and we'll always take care of them. But the question then is, after I have taken care of those ones, so what? That so what is lacking, because there was no exercising of the brain, trying to do things that otherwise you don't have money for. You've not been fundraising or making any effort towards fundraising to do something big, so that all your ideas are latent in your head. 100 million cannot get idea from your head and make it an innovation. You needed to have gone through the process of innovating this idea, putting it in form and structure, so that you can then see where money can go in. So anybody, and this is irregardless, anybody who does not have that kind of mental maturity, where there's a very clear way or very clear need for money, will always have a problem with any money, any amount of money that come unexpected. It's not big money, it's any amount of money. So if a student got 5,000 bob and he couldn't afford lunch yesterday, they forget for a while that they couldn't afford lunch, they get out and jump. I mean, if someone sufficiently employed and good income got 10 times or 3 times or just a double salary, the immediate needs that rise are the ones that are of immediate concern. So if your address was not the place where you prefer to stay at that income, then it becomes a priority to change the address. If how you travel was your biggest concern, or biggest worry, or biggest source of frustration, then you change your car. No, it's just the immediate need that is active in the mind is where money goes.
Okay.
Now, I have a young man in my office who is looking for 2 million bob to fire his business idea. I can bet you if that boy got 10 million, the first 2 will go to that business.
Yeah.
Perhaps the rest may find their way somewhere else. But the first 2 will go there because he's worked so hard on trying to get this idea move. That would be the first thing in his head. And it literally feeds him. It takes care of everything he does in life. So I wonder why he would be seeing himself owning a home immediately, when indeed the first thing he wants to own is a chain of butcheries. So that kind of mind is very different from a mind who says, one day I will own butcheries. And there's one who is already in the process of owning those butcheries.
Because they already have
He's only stuck for lack of capital to fire number 2, to fire number 3, to fire number 4. He knows the business, he's understood the market, he knows why it is required, he knows how much he needs to set up 1, to set up 2, to set up 10.
You know, the other day I was listening to somebody and they were asking how much money is too much. They asked different individuals in the audience and different people were saying different amounts, and they were asking them, why is that too much? And he said something that got me thinking. He said, the amount of money can only be too much based on your purpose.
Immediate purpose.
Yes. Because if you don't have a purpose, 1,000 bob may be too much for you.
A lot.
But for somebody who has a purpose, 10 billion may not even be enough.
I know someone in my life whom, when I give 1,000 bob, buys 2 beers and a packet of cigarettes, and by evening he's asking me for fare. So it's not something that that too much is very purposeful. Too much is need-based. Need is not want. A need is, I need 2 million now to implement this idea I have been toiling on for a year. Not hot air in the head. One day I want to own family TV type of studio. It's someone who's already running a small studio and thinks, if I got money, then I would buy those cameras, I would buy those equipment out, and he knows the budget for it. And he knows even how much it will cost him to freight, import, up to the point of full work. He knows. But a guy is here thinking, so when I get money, so what? That kind of fellow, any amount of money is too much.
It's too much for them. There's something that Joyce from Uganda had said. I don't know if you agree with her. She was saying, if I get 1 million bob, first thing I would do is bank the money and gain composure and silence the money, because money is very loud, especially if you have not toiled for it. It gives you directions and ideas.
I don't think money is loud. Are we allowed inside waiting for money to actually activate the noise? In other words, we have needs that are latent because money is not here. And there are things you call wishes. There's the life you wish to be. So she's right to the extent that what we are saying is the same, is just the description that is different. But the fact is that what Joyce is saying is, I don't have a plan for that money. So if I were to do anything with it right now, it would be wasteful. Let me put the money in somewhere away from me so that I have time to think through clearly what I want to do with it. Now, it's a good thing if you will honestly engage in a process of thinking. If it is 1 week and you're up to spend that money, you will still end up with projects that will shock you. So the question of how long and how much time you need depend on how ready were you for a major project. I mean, if someone told me I'd buy a property, I would look at that person as someone who is doing exactly what Joyce is doing. Keep this money away from me on this asset which can't move until I'm ready. Then I can sell it and do what I want to do. It's very much similar. In fact, I would rather the person who buys that property than the person who puts the money in the bank. Because for one reason, if you're not clear about what you want to do, the first thing you should not have is liquid cash around you. Because I don't know how long your mind will remain quiet. I don't know how long it will take you before you visit the bank. Either at night, during the day, or through the ATM by every means. So I can't quite be sure of that. Well, I would be more safer with someone who says, let me buy an asset with the money until when I won't know how to change the nature of this asset to own another asset.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You can send in your SMSs on 20316 in case you have a question. When we talk about a sudden amount of money that you're not expecting, it's not necessarily the million shillings or the 10 billion. Sometimes it's just a salary raise. You got 50% increment. What do you do with the 50%? Sometimes ni pesa ya kahawa imetoka na pesa ya majani chai, you know, and there are people who wait for people like that. So if you have questions, ask on 20316, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. Now, we had the opportunity to go out into the streets and to ask people the same question. If they suddenly got a lump sum, $1 million bob, 5 million bob, what would they do with the money? Let's listen to what they had to say.
Nikaweza pata pesa vya mimi hasla hivi. Mimi naweza fungua tu bizi yangu bigi tu niandike mayut kiasi. Acheki, yani bizi kigrow hivi ndo ndio wenyewe do wenyewe. Kwa bado nimejisaidia bado. Bado nimesaidia wase wengine.
Kitu ya kwanza mimi kama kijana naweza tafuta kitu kama proti, neneo proti mahali nijenge tu nyumba tukukomboesha. At least niko nikikumbuka ama nikimkumbuka kupitia hizo vitu.
Nimepata pesa kigafula. Mfano acha nitumie mama yangu. Mama yangu ni marehemu. Kama mamangu wakati aliaga angeniwachia mita kama 2 kulingana na saa hii. Mimi sidanganyi, mimi ningeenda majuu, nitafute place nyingine kama Saudia na huko ama Dubai, mahali kwenye corona haijafika bado. Umenielewa? Lakini kulingana na saa hii maisha ni ngumu by the way. Hata kupata hiyo dhao ni ngumu sana. Ukipata hiyo kadhaa unashukuru Mungu. Lakini ningeachia mita kama 2. Acha nikwambie my friend, ningekuwa mbali sana saa hii. Ningekuwa mbali sana.
Okay, saizi hivi nikipata kama 5 on my site naweza nunua, kwanza ninunue plot, nisomeshe mtoto yangu, yani nikae maisha mazuri kama vile watu wengine wanakaa. Yes.
Okay, kwanza naweza sema kwanza ni mpango wa Mungu kwanza kupata mali kama hiyo. Kwa hivyo wajibu wangu wa kwanza nitatafuta mtu mwenye ambaye anaweza saidia hata yeye asaidike kwa hiyo fedha. Kama children home kuna kiasi fulani naweza donate huko, ama church mahali na shiriki, kama kuna project inaendelea kuna a certain amount naweza wape waendeleshe hiyo project ambayo wako nayo.
Well, that's what different individuals on the streets of Nairobi had to say to this whole issue. Pat, I don't know what you think about some of their comments.
But what they're saying is exactly what is active in their minds. They are not declaring things that they don't think about. Yeah. The human mind is perpetually regurgitating certain set of thoughts. Of course, circumstantial, historical, depends on the path you follow to where you are today.
Yeah.
You've had a lady say she would buy a plot, build a house, take kids to school, and live a good life the way others are living. For her, 5 million will bring that good life one off. Maybe her view of good life is if someone has that house, they don't sleep hungry. That's not true, because that's perceptive, and it's okay. It is the way, is the limitation of human thinking. Now there's another layer of reality in life that you have to experience difficulties to know it. So that young man who mentioned about Kwenda Maju eventually came back to saying things are thick. And even getting 1,000 bob is tough. He's coming to his terms with real life. He's moving away from utopia kind of scenario. He's beginning to come, but he's not there because he's still not quite identified, for example, what 2 million could have done for him. He knows I would be far, but he doesn't know how to get far. So the challenge for me is that this fellow might end up in the same holes in the process of going far. If you've heard this familiar saying that every wealthy person once failed, failure doesn't mean that people must get into that hole necessarily, but it is an experience that makes you lose. And as you pick up the experience, then you turn the bottom into an upward swing. So if anybody has not clarified what they want to do, they haven't gotten to the bottom of their pain. The minds, as I said earlier, have not acquired maturity through the exercise of trying to do. It's like physical exercise, but the exercise of trying to identify clarity for specific things that need a specific amount of money.
Okay.
Okumu, for the last 11 years, I've been running a very small institution that I know how much money I need, and I've never wanted to raise that money from someone else.
Yeah.
If I got my 21 million today, I would have 11 branches of that school in the next 3 years. My point is implementing one successful one after another. As it breaks even, moves on, I move to the next place. Yes. I know exactly what I want to do with it, but I don't want any capital from out, first of all. I want to build the smallest unit of this business without somebody's capital.
Wow.
So that when I bring somebody's money, it's expansion.
It's expansion.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you could help us if for that person who's thinking, okay, so what should I do when I get this lump sum of amount of money that I was not expecting? And if I'm not mistaken, I think you once told me a story of a young man, who won a competition and won some money, and he came to you. Maybe that's a story that can help us
Actually,
understand.
he was sent to me by Safaricom. He didn't come to me.
Oh,
I was the advisor to them.
Yeah.
And I had to go to where he was staying in Western Kenya. And
How much money had he won?
He won 5 million bob, and he was 19 years old.
Wow.
This is a 19-year-old cane cutter. No education.
Yes.
And I like the boy because when he got the money, he kept telling me, I will not do anything until Mwalimu tells me what to do. Calls me Mwalimu. And that's it. Admitting that I don't know what to do.
Yes.
So the support system was such that the money was kept, like Joyce said, away to quiet the noise in her head.
Yes.
The money is not noise, it's the head there's noise in.
Yes.
So the money was kept away. And believe me, he was able to live on interest only for quite a while. Because interest was in excess of 25,000 a month. For a boy who was cutting cane yesterday, getting 25,000 a month as a salary, while still quieting down, that's enough to change his life.
Yes.
And by the time he will be touching even 100,000 of the money, he's changed from the fellow who was there, the fellow who is now getting 28, the fellow who can touch 100,000. So the first thing, as Joyce said, is to try and push the cash, the liquidity away from you. That's the ideal thing to do. Even if just keep it in a bank away from you.
Yeah.
It is the excitement in your mind that needs to go down, because it's the excitement that comes with the activation of the immediate needs. So if you can suppress the immediate needs and give yourself time to actually zero down on clearly 1, 2, 3 small things you can do, and do them in small bits to acquire experience first. Experience first, then later, there's no minimum time, can be 5 years, can be 2 years, can be a year, depending on what you're doing and who is working with you.
Yeah.
When God has a way of giving you something called experience, experience will change your perception of who you are when you got the money a year later.
Very true.
So if the money was, if you got a 2 million bob and you only use 200 to experiment, 1.8 million is sitting in the bank.
Yes.
By the time you go back to the bank, look at 1.8 million with experience, there'll be no noises in your head. No noises.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the first principle of financial literacy that is key is generate income. It's not about diminish your expenses. Diminish your loans. It's about generate income. Let the income pay the loans. Yes. So for me, the first thing someone should be thinking about is, how do I generate income sustainably? Because when you are generating income, if this cap is the asset you've invested in, this cap is not changing. So your 2 million is this cap.
Yeah.
If the income coming from this cap is able to help you to pay your loans and improve your life, then you are doing a much better thing than if you use the entire cap to eliminate what you're talking about. So for those who are discussing tithing is 10%. That we never discuss tithe because we are discussing what remains after tithe.
Yeah.
So it is what remains that needs to be put in this side of scenario where it is away from you. Whatever you want to do in your life, clarify it first. Yes.
Wow.
Good.
I have some questions coming in. Somebody is asking, they got dividends from their SACCO, and they are wondering whether to plow back the money into the SACCO or to pay their debt. Which one is wiser?
That's a very good one. That one I want to talk literally every employee, because and those who are not in the circle. And I'll use this as a method of doing things, parables. If you buy a piece of land, 100,000 shillings, like when we were boys, 25 years ago, you bought a plot 100,000. That was somewhere in Rongai, an area that is now called, what do you call it? That area near John King's home. It was 20,000, 80,000, 100,000, 25 years ago. Right now, an eighth is 3 million in that place.
Wow.
Okay? Do you now go and take the 2.9 million of the eighth and eat? You bought land, you still owe the land. Have you eaten the land?
No.
No. Same. Kenyans save 5.73% of their income in a circle, which earns them dividend. The 94% remaining they eat. When they get the dividends, they eat it too. So how do you get rich? You get rich by allocating that 5.7% of your income to all your wealth creation and journey mercies, as we call them. Because I'll tell you why I call them journey mercies. When you've put that 5.7% in a circle, all your problems are circle. So you've got, whenever you have a problem, circle. Now, you've eaten 94. The remaining 6% is solving all your problems. You can't be rich. So the fastest way to grow your capacity in the circle is to give the circle a fixed amount of money per month. Not much. Whatever you can afford comfortably. Like we are always comfortable in Kenya with only 6%, 100 bob per day, which translates into 3,000 a month. Then give the treasurer of the circle written instructions never to give you dividends in cash, but instead turn them into your deposits. You'll be shocked at how fast money can grow. Because the 100,000 in Rongai has become 3 million because the fellow was not exercising removal of that accretion of value.
Wow.
That's how it is. If someone can't understand that they are only saving 5% of their income and directing all their problems to it, eating dividends is suicidal. Don't even touch it.
Imagine our time is up.
Thank you.
What's your parting shot to the people who are listening to us today?
There is no magic to knowing how to spend any amount of money that will hit you, except having prepared by trying to solve some problem that need a clearly defined amount of money. That when that money hits you, it gets into solving a real money generating problem for you. Any other means is consuming it in any different form, which is wasteful. Thank you.
Atikomeo, thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
We appreciate your company. And your wisdom, my friend. Umesikia vile tumeambiwa. Yes, hata kama utapigia mwili pole, but you have to have a clear thought process. If it's not there, put the money away from you until you get to that place where you know exactly what you need to do. And I like what Patrick shared. Even if it's like a business, anza kidogo. Yeah, don't go and buy a whole garage or a whole supermarket and you've never run a supermarket before. 2-3 months down the line, it's gone under because you tried something big without getting the experience of beginning with something small. We are out of time for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow we will be having the relationship clinic and we'll be looking at how to overcome issues of bitterness and seeking revenge in relationships, so look out for that. As we wrap up, this is Audrey Assad. Be thou my vision. Have a great morning.